Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the National Teen Lock and Author Chats. I'm incredibly excited to introduce our second to last author this evening, Miss Nicola Yoon. She is a fabulous, amazing author of Everything, Everything, and she has a book upcoming soon, too. So I hope she'll tell us about that tonight. Without further ado, here is Nicola.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm so excited. I'm in my lovely office. I don't think there's anything too incriminating in the background, but thanks so much for joining. I'm having such a good time already. All right, so I'm going to start with the questions that I see in front of me. The first question is, can you tell us about everything, everything? Where did you get the inspiration for it? Well, so I started writing Everything, Everything when my daughter was 4 months old. So I was a new mom, and I was a very, very nervous new mom. So I was the kind of mom who's like, convinced that she was gonna eat dirt and catch a cold and somehow manage to crawl out of my house and leave. So I was really sort of panicky, and it just sort of occurred to me what life would be like for a mom who had to take care of like a child the way you take care of an infant. So, what if like you had to take care of an 18-year-old and protect an 18-year-old the same way you have to protect a 1 month old? So that's where the idea sort of came from in the first place, out of my own nervousness. The second question sort of relates to that. It's what gave you the idea for the main character's health situation? So in order to, have a character that needed constant protection, I needed a health situation that would work. And it turns out that the disease I chose is it's sort of called bubble boy disease colloquially, but it's severe combined immunodeficiency, which is basically that you have a really, really, really compromised immune system, and anything can make you sick. So that's where I got the idea. It was basically because I was too nervous about my little girl. I will say that I am not nervous anymore. She's 4, and if she eats dirt, I'm totally fine with it. I'm like, go ahead, it's fine. It'll make your immune system better. Okay, question 3. Can you tell us about your upcoming book, The Sun is Also a Star? Yes, so that book comes out on November 1st. And it's the story of Natasha and Daniel. It takes place over 12 hours in New York City. Natasha is being deported with her family at the end of the day. And Daniel has an interview that could change his life. Natasha is a very scientific girl. She does not believe in love. And Daniel is a very romantic boy. And he is convinced that he can convince her to fall in love with him using like a scientific questionnaire. And it takes place over 12 hours. So that is The Sun is Also a Star. Forgive me as I scroll a little bit. Okay, question 4. Love the artwork on the hardcover book jacket of Everything, Everything. I read that your husband did the art. How did he become involved in this project, and how does the art tie in with the book, in your opinion? So my husband did indeed do the artwork, but he did the artwork inside the book. He didn't do the artwork on the cover of the book. And I love the artwork both inside and on the cover. But I'll tell you a little bit about the cover art. So it's done by a pair of artists in England. They're called Good Wives and Warriors. And they typically do these sort of large-scale museum installations and like huge murals. And then when Random House asked them to do this art, and they said yes, we were just thrilled beyond belief. What's so cool about the art on the cover is that every object that you see on the cover is actually in the book. So if you look at the cover closely, you'll see that butterflies and bundt cakes and airplanes, all those things are referenced in the book. And then as for the art in the book, it's kind of a funny story. So I write from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, or I did actually when I was writing Everything, Everything. And it was one of those things where at 4 a.m. you're sort of tired and your mind does really sort of strange things. And I had this idea that Maddie, who's the main character, would draw the world as a way to get closer to it, as a way to understand it. And I'm sort of obsessed with Hawaii, and I had Maddie be obsessed with Hawaii. And I was like, she would draw the Hawaiian state fish. And the Hawaiian state fish is called the Humuhumu Nuku Nuku Apua'a, which is like the best state of a fish ever. But I can't draw. So I was sitting there, it was 4 a.m., and I like drew like the most childish, ridiculous fish you've ever seen. And my husband is a fantastic artist, and he works as a graphic designer. And I went to the bedroom and I woke him up at 4 a.m. And I was like, honey, will you please draw the Hawaiian state fish for me? The hulu hulu nuku nuku. And he is the best person on earth because he got up and he made himself a coffee and he gave me a kiss and he didn't ask any questions. He was like, fine, I'll draw the fish. And he drew this fish, and it's the fish that is in the book today. And that sort of started all the sort of non-traditional elements in the book. So if you read the book, there are lots of drawings and there are recipes and IM chats and text messages and the sort of whimsical things that Maddie does. And the inspiration for all that was the Hawaiian state fish. Okay, number 5. Did he also design your next book's cover? So as I say, he did not design the cover of Everything, and the cover of The Sun Is Also a Star is done by an Australian artist, and her name is Dominique Fala, and she does this beautiful sort of intricate string art, and it fits really nicely with the theme of the book, which is, what is the role of fate in our lives? Are we really all connected? So that's where that came from. Question 6. Tell us about your involvement with We Need Diverse Books and the issue of diversity in young adult literature. What can teens do about the issue of diversity awareness? Okay, so We Need Diverse Books is an organization dedicated to promoting diversity in young adult literature. And I'm a member of the team. I've been a member for a long time. And, it's an issue that's really important to me, really dear to my heart. I am from Jamaica, so I'm Jamaican American. My husband is Korean American. And we have this little daughter who's, a mixture of us both. And I really think it's important for everyone to be able to see themselves in a story, to see themselves as the hero of a story. So the Maddie in Everything is a mixture. She's a mixture of her parents, and she's half African American and half Japanese. And that was a choice on my part because I really wanted my little girl, when she grew up, to be able to see a character that looked like her in a book. And I really think that's so important for everyone to be able to see that. I always say that, just imagine Harry Potter. Like if Harry Potter were gay or black or sort of anything else, would the story be that much different? And, how amazing would that be for all these children who don't traditionally get to see themselves in stories? That's why it's really important to me. On a personal level, everything is always on a personal level. People talk about politics as if it's this big and personal thing, but it's really always things that are close to our hearts. What can teens do about the issue of diversity awareness? Read more books and sort of read outside of your comfort zone. I think that we tend to think we only want to read books that are about people that are like us, but some of the very, very best books I've ever read and some of the most interesting books I've ever read are about people that are not like me at all. You learn so much. And I would say that it's not even only about reading, it's about just your life, diversify your life. Like I have learned some very, very cool things from some people that I never thought I would have anything in common with. But, as I say, my husband's Korean American, and I have more in common with him than I have with anyone, including my sister, my parents, everyone. Allow yourself to be surprised. Okay, question 7. What do you think about films and TV shows not casting a minority actor or actress to portray minority characters? I think that's not great. And when I say not great, I think that's pretty bad. I think that it doesn't happen often enough as it is. So if there is a role for a minority character, we should use, actors and actresses of that ethnicity. As I say, it's really important for everyone to be able to see themselves as a hero. It's good to be able to think, oh, I can grow up to be that. Like one of the things that people are so thrilled about with Hillary Clinton being, the official nominee of a major party is like now little girls know I can be president. I think it works in that same way that, it's nice to be able to know that you can do anything. Okay, moving on. Let's see. No, question eight. Question eight. Okay, here we go. If you could cast actors in the movie or TV show of Everything Everything, who would your choice be? Well, I don't have to guess at this because Everything Everything is being made into a movie. So it was optioned by MGM sometime last year. We have a director, and the cast was just announced. So Maddie will be played by Amanda Stenberg, and Ollie will be played by Nick Robinson. So I don't have to guess. We have a cast. Woohoo! Okay, number 9. Let's play the favorite game. Favorite book you've read recently? Oh God. Okay. I'm gonna say a few because I've read a lot of good books recently. I've been very lucky. So I read Furthermore by Tahare Mafi, which is coming out I think in September of this year, and it's just brilliant. It's a middle grade fantasy. It's beautiful, gorgeously written, so inventive, so like she's just out of control good, incredible. And then I read A Torch Against the Night by Sabah Tahir, which is the second book in the Ember and the Ashes series. And I loved An Ember and the Ashes, and the second book is better, which is ridiculous because the first book was awesome. And also, second books are never better. Like, I always feel like the second book in the series is always just sort of, but this is better than the first one, which is ridiculous. What else have I read? Oh, I just read The Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, and that's fantastic. It's such a killer idea. The writing is great. So those are my recommendations. Favorite genre? I don't really have a favorite genre. I'm kind of like I will read anything you put in front of me. So I'm kind of like a book hoe, I guess you want to say. Like I seriously will read anything. So I can't choose a favorite genre. And I actually think like it's one of the pieces of advice I always give to aspiring writers is just make sure you read widely. So don't like stick to like if you're writing fantasy, don't only stick to reading fantasy. Reading lots of other things will help inspire you and also will make your fantasy stand out from like everyone else. And I will say the same thing. If you're writing contemporary, read a lot of fantasy, read some sci-fi, read some romance. These things really inform your writing. Um, Favorite movie? Oh my goodness. Um, The Princess Bride, I gotta say, and maybe When Harry Met Sally. And The Usual Suspects. See, I can't choose you guys. This is craziness. Favorite TV show? I don't know. Right now, I'm sort of obsessed with Strange Things or Stranger Things. I can't even remember the title now. But my favorite TV show of all time was probably The West Wing and A Different World from way back in the day. Favorite actor and actress? Right now, Amanda Stenberg and Nick Robinson. Favorite music band or artist? Radiohead, easy peasy, my favorite of all time. Favorite food? Okay, so I have a Korean favorite and a Jamaican favorite. Um, my Korean favorite is kalbi, which is like sort of barbecued beef. And my favorite Jamaican food is this thing called ackee, which is a fruit, and you usually have it for breakfast with fish, and it's delicious, and I love it. Okay, number 10. Can you tell us about your writing process? Do you like to outline or free write? Okay, so I write into notebooks actually, and I write by hand, and I'll show you one of my notebooks. So this is a moleskin notebook, and I fill up a lot of these. I think everything was 10 notebooks, and Sun is Also a Star was maybe 7 of those notebooks. So I write by hand, and then every few days I type it in, and I do like a little revision on it while I'm typing it in because usually I write by hand because it feels very, very free. Like I can just say anything I want and all the strange ideas occur to me and I won't edit myself. And then by the time I'm ready to type it in, I've organized my thoughts a little bit more. So it's like my first revision as I'm typing in. Number 11, do you like to listen to podcasts? Yes, I do like to listen to them a lot. I listen to them if I'm signing stock for books for bookstores, or if I'm just doing something else where I just need to take a break from writing. I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I love This American Life, Reply All, Two Dope Queens. My husband just recommended a new one called Invisibilia. I haven't checked it out yet, but he loves it. Number 12, why and how did you become a writer? Um, well, the why is because I couldn't help it. Um, it's one of those things. It's funny because I wanted to be a writer and I forgot I wanted to be a writer. A few years ago, I found my old diary, and I think I was 8 when I wrote down, "I'm going to be a writer when I grow up." And then what happened is I got to be really good at math in like high school, and I went to college. I majored in electrical engineering, and I took a lot of math classes, and I sort of forgot about writing for a long time. And then in college, my senior year, I took an elective class, and it was a poetry class, and I wrote the worst, the most terrible, embarrassing poetry. Usually about unrequited love because I was in love with one of my friends and like he did not love me back and it was terrible. So mostly all the poems were about that and they were not good. But I got bitten by the writing bug at that point, and so I've been writing ever since then. Let's see. Do you have any advice for aspiring writers? Yes, I do. So I think one of the things I said before is read widely. Um, it really, really expands your horizons. Write a lot. I think that writing is a muscle, and like any other muscle, and needs practice to get better. Um, Try not to judge yourself and your interests. I mean, one of the best things is to let your freak flag fly. Like all the things that are weird about you, when you put it into your writing, that's the thing that makes you different and you unusual and makes me and everyone else want to read what you have to say. Um, what else would I say about advice for aspiring writers? The one thing I had trouble with when I was starting out was I would get a great idea and I would start writing it. And then when you get to the middle of things, it gets to be a little bit harder. And then I would have another great, shiny idea. And I would just abandon the first thing and start writing the second thing. And then if you do that, nothing ever gets finished. So I'll tell you, the first version of Everything is published today, or not the first version is published, but that book is published today because I finished it, right? And so it's because I didn't abandon it in the middle when it got hard. It's because I took this blank page, finished it. The first draft was really, 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 really terrible. But I have a brilliant editor, and I revised it and revised it and revised it, and the draft that's out is not so bad, right? The one that's on the shelf, but the first one was terrible. But the only reason it's there is because it didn't like sort of go for the shiny new idea. So I would think that's one thing I had trouble with, and I think a lot of younger writers have trouble with, is just trying to get through to the end. If you don't have a finished thing, then there's nothing to revise and fix. So just try to get to the end where you have a finished thing that you can work with. Okay. Number 14, can you tell us about the tree behind you on your wall? Yeah, I don't know if I can get you over there. So hold on, I'm going to try to, this might be a mistake, you guys, but I'm going to try to move us over there.
Okay.
Okay, so there's that. So that tree is from my launch party for Everything. And I read a passage from the book, and my husband drew the tree. And it's from a passage where Maddie's talking about description of a tree is not a tree, and 1,000 paper kisses will never equal the feel of Ollie's lips against hers. So while I was reading, my husband drew that tree, and then all my friends came up after the launch party and signed their names to the tree. And so I'm supposed to get it framed. I haven't done it yet because I'm just lazy. But I really love that thing. So it's like all my really good friends have signed that. Number 15, do you picture yourself staying with young adult, within the young adult realm, or do you think you'll try middle grade or adult? So yeah, the thing about writing is that you love to try everything. Right now, I love young adult. I am working on an adult novel, sort of on and off, and I wrote adult novels before Everything as well. But right now, I really love young adult, and I'll tell you why. So I tend to be a very philosophical person. Like I am the person that's always going, but what does it really mean? And what is the meaning of life? Like, it's sort of obnoxious. Like, with the most innocuous thing, I'll be like, but what does that really mean? And my husband will be, it doesn't mean anything. It's fine. Just chill. But I really like that. And I think that young adults are like that sort of naturally, right? Because you are trying to figure out your place in the world. You're trying to figure out what it means and what you want to do and who you want to be. And, life is very sort of this big, complicated place. And in your teenage years, you're really sort of trying to figure out what does the world mean and what's my place in it. And so you're naturally very philosophical. And I love being a part of that conversation. I love the fact that my readers are asking those questions. And I want to say, well, you could think this, and you could think this, and you could think this. And I want to have that conversation with my readers. So I really, really find it a privilege to, write for people who are questioning and still think the questions are important, because I really do too. Okay. So number 17 is, what is the best thing about writing books for young adults? And I think I just answered that one. Did I skip one? Oh, number 16. If you could go to dinner with 5 people, living or passed away, who would you select? Oh, that's too hard, you guys. I don't know. Let's see. I would like to go to dinner with Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I'm sure I'm saying his name incorrectly. He wrote The Little Prince. I would like to go to dinner with Toni Morrison. I'd like to go to dinner with God. I'd like to go to dinner with Michelle and Barack Obama. How many people am I up to? There are too many. That question's great, but it's way too hard. But that's a good list, right? Okay, next one. I was just wondering what thoughts you have on intersectionality and things like feminism. Do you think it's important to address topics like this in your writing? And do you have any plans of handling it in the future? Also, do you think it's important, or do you have any plans to handle topics of being enough to be in a specific group? Like, a lot of POC or people with disabilities or LGBT individuals can deal with gatekeeping within their own minority groups. Wow, this is a big question. Okay, let me start from the beginning. I was wondering what thoughts you have on intersectionality and things like feminism. Okay, so I think people are people and people are intersectional, right? So in the YA community, especially sometimes if you see a book where, say, the main character is gay and has an eating disorder and is dealing with race issues, sometimes you see reviews that say that seems like a lot. I think that's kind of a bad review because people have a lot to deal with, and people are intersectional. So people are, in fact, a person of color, or they're Black and they're gay and they have an eating disorder. These things happen. People are just like that. So I think we have a responsibility to address it in our literature because it's the truth of life and the truth of people's lives. So yeah, I think that answers the first part of that. And then also, do you think it's important, or do you have any plans to handle topics of being enough to be in a specific group? So I'm gonna say, I think I understand what that question means. I think that we can't treat groups as monoliths. So I think if I'm watching say a television show and there's only one Black character on the TV show, that Black character is a drug dealer. I can't watch a show like that. It just drives me nuts because it's such a stereotype, and I've seen that stereotype my entire life, and I just can't deal with it anymore because it feels like we've seen that caricature of a person for a long, long time, and there's so many other Black people in the world. If there were 10 characters of color on a show, like say 10 Black characters on that same TV show, and one was a drug dealer, and one was a lawyer, and one was, a girl struggling with her identity, and what have you, then I'd be fine, because then I wouldn't be seeing that one stereotype over and over again, that sort of only that one representation of a way to be. So, this idea of being enough sort of assumes that there's only one way to be something. So one way to be gay, or one way to be Black, or one way to be Korean. And that's the problem, right? I mean, those are stereotypes. People get to be anything they want to be, right? And their ethnicity is a part of who they are. I mean, for me, it's not my entire identity at all, right? But it is a part of me. And I think the problem with sometimes TV shows and books is that you see stereotypes, and it's frustrating when you go, I have this whole life and all my friends and this whole world that's just not like that, and I never get to see that portrayed. Um, okay, I think I got that whole question. Okay, number 19. What do you say to adults or parents who believe young adults should not read controversial topics? Well, that's a good question. Um, yeah, you know what? Young adults are dealing with controversial topics. I mean, they are dealing with so many important issues already. So to pretend that they're not does everyone a disservice, you know? We live in this world that's sometimes dangerous and scary. There's terrorism, there's racism, there's bullying, there is, sexism. People feel suicidal. There's school shootings. I mean, I don't want to bring everybody down, but I mean, there's a lot to deal with, and it's not like our kids aren't seeing this stuff. Um, I would very much prefer my child to read a thoughtful book about these topics, like sort of exploring it, than to have them feel alone and confused and to shy away from it. Because in the absence of information, in a vacuum, we make things up that aren't necessarily true. And I know when I was a kid, I had a wild imagination. And I think a little bit of guidance from adults, from someone who's like maybe on the other side of these things, is really, really good and helpful. I don't think it does us any good to bury our heads in the sand. Teenagers are adults, they're smart. I mean, they're not quite adults, but they're getting there. I mean, they are the future, and they're questioning. And I mean, we are obligated to try to help, or at least steer them in the right direction of asking some important questions. Number 20, what do you do when you have writer's block? I play Tetris or Bejeweled or any video game. Like, I play a lot of video games with my husband. We don't really watch television, but we play many, many video games together. Right now we're playing Uncharted 4. So for me, for writer's block, it's just I have to keep myself sort of out of what I'm writing. And usually when I get writer's block, it's because I have written the wrong thing. So like I've done something to my character that they wouldn't do. Like I've made them say something or do something that's just not right. And usually the solution is basically just to delete until I get to something that's true again. That's usually when I'm blocked. It takes me a while to figure out what the block is. And so in that time, I play a video game. Okay. Number 21. What would you tell your 16-year-old self today if you could go back in time? Oh, God. Okay. So this one I actually do. I wrote about this recently. You know, when I was 16, I really wanted to know the meaning of life. And not only did I want to know, I wanted someone to be able to just tell me exactly what I needed to do all the time so that I would be guaranteed to be happy. I was a weird kid. And now I know that it's actually the questioning of things that is important. It's like the journey is trying to figure out, the meaning of life and trying to make meaning for yourself. That's important. I had so much angst when I was a kid, though, over this, So I think it's one of the things I would tell my 16-year-old self is it's okay to have questions. The questions are not gonna, you don't have to have all the answers all the time. You just have to ask the right questions and keep going and try to make meaning and find meaning. So I think that's the thing I would say. Oh, and also you're going to meet a super cute boy in grad school and you're going to marry that one. So don't worry about it right now. 22. Can you tell us what you're currently working on? I am working on my third book. It's in the first draft stage right now, and it's terrible, you guys. It's not good. But that's what I say about all the books. I think that's what all writers say about all the books when you're in the middle of a draft. It just feels like you don't know what you're doing, and there is no end or purpose. And that's the stage I'm in. Okay, so I answered all the questions. And then unless there are any more, I guess I will take off. Okay, So thank you guys so much for joining. And maybe I'll see you at one of my events sometime soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for chatting with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right, everyone, we will be back with one more author. Hang tight, and we'll see you around midnight. Thank you so much.
Bye.